For today's maths lesson, you're going to work on 3 problems that all involve fitting shapes into this rectangle here, which is 6 squares across and 8 squares down. Now on Google Classroom, I have attached a PDF document, which if you could print will give you everything that you need for today's lesson, including a 6 by 8 rectangle and all of the shapes that you can cut out for each of the 3 problems. Hopefully this will make sense as we make a start. If you don't have access to a printer, you can just draw a 6 by 8 rectangle and draw in the shapes that I'm about to describe for each of the problems. Okay, for problem number 1, I am going to give you 5 shapes. So shape A is a rectangle, which is 3 high and 7 across. We've got a triangle, B, which is 5 high and 2 across. And then we've got 3 squares. So shape C is a 1 by 1 square. Shape D is a 2 by 2 square. And shape E is a 3 by 3 square. And the first thing I'd like you to do for puzzle or problem number 1 is to fit all of the 5 shapes into this big rectangle on the left hand side. See if you can fit all 5 shapes into this rectangle without them overlapping. And I'm wondering if you can do that in more than one way. So see how many different ways you can do that. Now there are a couple of questions associated with puzzle problem number 1, which I've got on the right hand side here. So the first one, after all of the shapes have been fitted into the rectangle, what area is unfilled? So what area does not have any shapes on it? And the second question, after all of the shapes have been fitted in, what fraction of the big rectangle is unfilled? So I'm not going to do all of this as an example. I want you to work on this yourself. But just so you have a real clear image of what I'm asking here, I want you to put these 5 shapes somewhere into the rectangle on the left hand side, and then work on the 2 questions which I've got here. After all of the shapes have been fitted, what area is unfilled? And after all of the shapes have been fitted in, what fraction of the big rectangle is unfilled? Now you're going to need to take a photo of your rectangle with all of the shapes in, and also your answers to these 2 questions as well. So pause the video now, have a go at problem number 1, and once you've finished and you've taken a photo of your work, then restart the video and we'll move on to problem number 2. Okay, well done. If you've restarted the video, hopefully that means you're ready to move on to problem number 2. So what I'm going to do is just cover up problem number 1 so that doesn't get in the way for problem 2. And problem 2 is a little bit more straightforward, or a little bit simpler to explain, so it shouldn't take me very long. And problem number 2 is just this. How many different sized rectangles can you fit into the big rectangle? Now, one thing that's worth mentioning is I've cut out 2 rectangles here. The one on the left is 3 high and 1 across. And the one on the right is 1 high and 3 across. Now, although I've got them in different directions, shall we say, these are actually the same rectangle, because if I turn this 90 degrees, then they're exactly the same rectangle. So these would not count as different sized rectangles. So bear that in mind when you're working on this problem. Just a reminder that there's a PDF document with this ready to print. But what I'd like you to do is see how many different sized rectangles you can fit into this rectangle on the left hand side. So again, I'm going to ask you to pause the video now to have a go at this problem. Remember to take a photo of your finished rectangle with all of the different smaller rectangles in, so that you can upload that onto Google Classroom at the end of the lesson. So pause the video now and see how many different size rectangles you can fit into this rectangle here. Off you go. Okay, well done. Again, if you've restarted the video, hopefully that means you're ready to move on. Just remember to take a photo of your work for to upload onto Google Classroom in a little while. And the final problem we're going to work on, problem number 3, is an extension. So have a go at this, but I'm not expecting every single student to work on this fully. But this is what problem number 3 looks like. I'm going to give you 4 right angle triangles. One of them is 4 high and 4 across. The next one is 3 high and 3 across. Then we've got one which is 2 high and 2 across. And finally we've got a small one which is just 1 square high and 1 across as well. Now problem number 3 is asking you to put these 4 triangles into the rectangle on the left hand side of the screen in any order that you like. So let me just do that with the 4 that I've got here. As long as they don't overlap, they can go in any way that you like. And here are your questions for problem number 3. Once you've put all of the 4 triangles inside this big rectangle, then how many little 1 by 1 squares can you fit into the unfilled spaces? So if I had loads of these, I could fit one there, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. And what I'd like to know is how many, after you've placed these 4 triangles into the big rectangle, how many little 1 by 1 squares you could fit in to the unfilled spaces. So that's your first challenge. And the second and final thing for today's lesson is see if you can work out what the maximum number of 1 by 1 squares is that you could fit into the unfilled spaces in your rectangle. So what I need you to do for that is maybe move around your triangles a little bit. So for example, I might need to turn this triangle around like so. I might need to move this one into the corner, and I might need to turn this one around here, for example. So I need to turn my triangles around so that they're fitted in the rectangle somewhere. And I would like to know if you can work out what the maximum number of 1 by 1 squares is that you could fit in after you've done that. And that is today's final problem. So with problem number 3, remember it is an extension, but I still need you to take a photo of your work, your rectangle with all of the triangles in. And any workings that you do for these couple of questions, I also need you to take a photo of as well. Now that is the end of today's lesson. Remember that you should have, or hopefully you've taken some photos throughout today's lesson, and you need to upload those along with any workings onto Google Classroom so your teacher can have a look at the work that you've done today.